almost demands aggression. It's so short. There's so many different ways to attack on it. Whereas Star Station is a very big map. It's very easy to defend a lot of things. Third base can be a little bit exposed. If you do want to attack, that has to be your focus going into the game. I don't know. It's really hard to tell because Sans PVT, it looks like he's probably going to be trying to experiment, trying to find what works.
Well, starting to the bottom right, we have the Protoss player. It is for Team Azubu, down 1 game in the best of 5 here at the ASUS ROG finals. It is San. And he is up against a fan favorite with the 1-0 lead in the series. It is the champion. Starting to the top left for Team Liquid, it is TaeJa. TaeJa labeling himself a San fan, which you can see in his overlay every single time. Not much of a San fan if you ask me, the way he beat him in game number 1.
You can be his fan and still want to beat him. $10,000 sometimes overweighs that.
Only occasionally. Well, right now in this game, I mean, the main question, of course, is still what is San going to do in this series? He must have come into the best of 5 and realized that TaeJa will be a very tough opponent to beat given the Protoss versus Terran that we've seen out of him. And in this particular scenario, either San is just trying to play a little bit of a greedy build, trying to go into the mid game and confident in his abilities that he can take down his opponent with his micro, with his macro and multitasking, or he just resigns and says, you know what, I don't think I can beat him like this. I have to hit him with the timing, I have to hit him hard, and either it works or it doesn't, but I have to roll the dice here.
I really disliked those Immortals. It was kind of weird. He actually didn't commit either way in that last game. It was really middle of the road. He made some Immortals which really lend themselves to some kind of bust. They're so good at taking down the early Marauders and bunkers, and just the insane DPS kind of negates repair, because you burst it down that fast, you can't repair it. But then he just sat back and took a third without securing any of the high-tech, without the Templars, the Colossus that we've seen every other Protoss use to actually defend that third. So he didn't attack, but he also didn't really take a safe third base. And it wasn't even a greedy third base. It wasn't super fast. He just had an ineffectual tech going into it. It was just really unfocused play. And he's definitely going to have to fix that if he wants to have any chance against TaeJa here.
Yeah, that surprises me a little bit, because the one thing that we can really say about Sans Protoss versus Zerg is that he is super aggressive.
Yeah.
He was always in Hyun's face. And Hyun is one of those players that has an incredible Zerg versus Protoss. And he is really good at this matchup. But because of all that pressure that we saw coming out of San, he was never really able to get that into the game. So San was always in his opponent's face. He was always going for the aggression, massive amount of gateways. And I would have expected him to try to at least transfer that style in general over into his Protoss versus Terran. But he seems, in game 1, as you already mentioned, he seemed a little bit lost. And it seemed not really as crisp as the builds that we've seen in other matchups from him.
And even in the PvZs, even in the macro games, even when he was going 3-base Void, right, he was still absolutely in his opponent's face, to the extent that he lost an army for free once. He was still good enough to come back and win. But no matter what, he was putting the pressure on his opponents, and that's part of the reason he forced so many mistakes out of them. So a player who is just so nonstop aggressive to then sit back and play passive in a different matchup, I don't know, it just shows a different level of understanding of how to play against the two races.
And there's, of course, also the experience coming into play. San himself being an older StarCraft player or being around for a long time. But TaeJa just definitely one of the two who has the more experience, especially in international events. He's been playing in so many finals already. That might come into play here as well. Currently in this game, we have both of them just taking it easy for the early game at least. We have TaeJa with a build that he has used in previous games, especially when he was up against Alicia. He goes into the double CC now, takes it a little bit more greedy here in the early game, even taking his gases as well. He has a reactor here on his barracks, but with this build in particular, that's something where he can, of course, then just base everything on this massive economy that he's going to get on top of it.
Yeah, this is what we saw from him against Alicia on Derelict Watch, I believe. And he just went an incredibly fast third base and then powered up a ton of barracks and went for a big mid-game timing. Not even an SCV pull. He just had enough bio and medevacs to plow through Alicia. And he did it right before the secondary tech kicks in. And it varies whichever that'll be. Sometimes we'll go Colossus first. Some players will go Templar first. But there's always going to be that tech switch mid-game. And he had it timed out just perfectly that he had a big mass units right as that tech switch was going to happen. So not sure if he's going to go for that again here. You can just go for a macro game as well off this and just play it absolutely normally. Either way, it's just a very solid opening because you get those 3 CCs early on. You just get such a good economy off of it.
Yeah, and of course also you have the extra energy that was immediately being used here to get one of those scans off to the bottom right. Seeing now what exactly we have here in San's base, he spotted the robotics facility and saw every tech that we currently have for the Azubu player. So San is starting once again with Robo into Forge. And I'm really interested to see what he's going to do with that Robo after his Observer. In the last game, he was going for Warp Prism and tried to make that DT drop at work. And actually did some decent damage, but I don't feel he was maybe not as successful as he wanted to. Definitely not the build that I would assume him to go in this game. It would maybe be a little bit too predictable. Right? TaeJa already saw that he's willing to go into a DT tech, so that will probably make him a little bit more cautious. And we have, of course, 3 CCs and therefore a lot more scans available.
There's actually a pylon dropped immediately outside of TaeJa's base, but he only has that one gateway, so this can't really be too much of anything. Maybe a fake, maybe just try and scare him. But TaeJa is going to be more than comfortable against this. He actually has Widow Mines out. He's going up for a drop, and he sees that pylon, cancels it. So this is actually really smart by Sam. This is pure mind games. He canceled that immediately. He put down one right next to it, kind of just hoping that TaeJa would come out and see that too. And it's actually working. TaeJa's putting down 2 bunkers here for no reason. Yeah. And he cancels one because he scans and sees that there's actually nothing to be afraid of in Sam's base. But
yeah, he lets the second one apparently finish because he's not quite sure if there might be another couple of gates somewhere else in the base. Yeah. But at this point, he really assumes that it was just simply a fake coming out of Sand. And that was actually well executed. I really like the idea that the Zulu player had there.
It cost him almost nothing. It cost him about 25 minerals, actually, to do all of that. And out of TaeJa, it burnt a scan. That gave him no new information at all, and also that additional bunker. So great little mind games coming out of Sam. But back in his base, he's rushing straight up to Templar Archives this game. Incredibly fast, actually, just doing that off 2 gates and an Observer.
Yeah, pulling a little bit of an Alicia here.
Yeah, going very similar to the way he played, actually. Like
going
almost
straight into the Storm, going for the armor upgrade here. And TaeJa, on the other hand, now trying to go into the double engineering bay for the double upgrades. He has also Stim immediately on the production tab. And San is starting with his Warp Prism again, so he could just try to go into his opponent's main base and warp in a couple of units. He could even see a Storm drop at some point.
He definitely could. I think it's more likely he's going to be forced to use the Templar defensively, though, because TaeJa is powering up pretty hard. He already has 3 barracks running with a double tech lab, so he's going to have a lot of Marauders coming out. He's getting that double E-base, so he's going to have 1-1 pretty quickly. And in fact, that's going to negate any advantage the Protoss would have in terms of upgrades, since he only has the 1 Forge. We do have a drop coming in here with a Widow Mine and a couple Marines. This isn't going to do anything big unless he lets... Oh, he is hiding that Widow Mine for future, waiting for the Pro Transfer to come, hoping to get a big shot there. That could potentially be really big.
Yeah, third base now coming out for San, and that puts an end to our thoughts of him being aggressive for now. He really wants to try to make something work with his expansion, and the drop spotted this immediately. Wow. Zip, and there comes the feedback. He did not expect those High Templars to be there.
No, I don't think he did. He lost that immediately. There were only 3 Marines in there, but losing a medevac, that kind of sucks. Medevacs are important units, very expensive. And it's very important to build up your medevac count early because Colossus will be coming, and when they do, you want to spend all of that starport time.
Boom, he only gets the probes down. And
that
the
could have been a lot
already
more.
on the way.
Sorry, what?
The Observer already on the way now to check it out.
Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate. If he were paying attention to that, he could have switched to focus fire a bit, waited for a bigger clump, but just getting 2 out of that. Not a big investment, but not a big return either.
Yeah, the macro of TaeJa, on the other hand, to the top left is absolutely on top of things. We go see immediately the armory being built, so the 2-2 will be available. In past games, he missed that sometimes and lost a few precious seconds, but here he really wants to get that upgrade lead over his opponent. And even sees the movement of the Observer, scans ahead and takes it out, so San's vision is quite limited. He has another one in the vicinity that at least spots the third base, and actually he is also in the range of all those additional structures that is now being added by TaeJa.
Yeah, he sees those additional 3 barracks coming down. He knows that TaeJa's starting to power up. And this doesn't look like the same build that he did against Alicia. This looks much more late game oriented. I don't think he's going to go for big timing unless he just so happens to see the opportunity. And that Warp Prism just can't catch a break. First it's caught by a flying building. Next, it actually goes off in range of the sensor tower. So TaeJa knows he's going around looking for an opportunity, and the Widow Mine actually takes out the Zealot, and then the Viking is going to shut down the Warp Prism. So absolutely nothing accomplished.
That Warp Prism is having a shitty day.
Yes, it did.
Well, the Warp Prism actually it looks like the Warp Prism will be escaped. Yep, gets away from the Viking after all. But those High Templars, they are a little bit less lucky. They are morphing to an Archon right away. Nice snipe here by TaeJa. No time to accumulate the energy for a Storm. The Terran player trying to force the issue. Immediately pulled an overcharge going down the force field. Not as good against TaeJa as they were against Hyun, trapping only 2 Marines and still trying to buy the time to get the Storm upgrade out there. And we also have now double Forge for San, so he added the second Forge. He wants to have those double upgrades. And TaeJa still in a bit of a lead with the upgrade tech, but if San uses his Chrono Boost, he will catch up quite quickly and get ahead.
Yeah, definitely. It's just a matter of whether or not he feels that is worth focusing on or not. What else is he going to use his Chrono Boost on? It really should be the upgrades, but the thing that really bothers me here is he's still going those Immortals, and I just really feel like Immortals are not necessarily bad, but there's other things that scale so much better in the mid and late game, namely Templar and Colossus. We do see that Robobay done, so I have no idea why he's continuing to produce Immortals. Now he has begun the Colossus production.
Yeah, the Robobay just finished while the Immortal was nearly done. I feel that's why he waited here a little bit longer. He maybe have missed time with a little bit of even the first Colossus now that he has the opportunity to get them into the game. And we have for TaeJa an adjustment immediately upon scouting that is a robotics play. We see the additional starboard coming down that will give him the chance to get a lot more Vikings out there and of course always make the transition back into medevacs if he loses his support units here. But you can really see that Azubu-san is completely on top of his upgrades. He's going into the range upgrade for the Colossi. He has +2 attacks started and he goes into the 3rd armor upgrade already. So that's exactly what you want to have in his situation.
Yeah, a very comfortable macro game for both of them. There's a little bit of warp and harass. I take this natural here. But getting shut down very quickly. 3 Zealots, maybe a couple of SCV kills, and the Warp Prism does go down, so that's not really worthwhile. We saw much better Zealot harass out of Alicia, actually much more pylon focused. Or if he did use a Warp Prism, he actually put it far away and just ran the Zealots in. That way he didn't run the risk. And it looks like he caught a Templar in the middle of the map too. Yep. So San being a little bit sloppy all over here.
Yeah, San is now in a position where he's trying to establish himself at 4th base, and TaeJa is doing the same thing, just heading over with his command center that he already built a little bit earlier. We have for him not only the Vikings, but he also goes into the Ghost production, even researching the personal cloaking here, adding his own upgrades. And the scout here for San is of course nice. He knows that there is already the 4th, so both of them with roughly the same timing for the additional mineral line. San is getting the Dark Shrine, and I kind of like this. If you're on 4 bases, then it really can pay off if you send those units over. Harassment in the late game can be really important. We saw Alicia using that style against Terran over and over again. He was so successful, not only against Happy, but also against TaeJa later. He had the first engagement on the other hand, but both not too confident in making that backlash work.
And Templar are sniped immediately. A couple of feedbacks going off, but using all of the mana, so I'm not sure if he even has any storms left. He only has that single Colossus. And TaeJa just has a massive army compared to Sam.
Here comes the first storm. That does at least a lot of damage against those Vikings. He's trying to get the second one. And TaeJa with a stim once again. 30 supply ahead of his opponent. The Colossus down. And the Terran player on the chase. So those Immortals don't do anything here. A 60 supply lead for TaeJa. He's moving in at the 4th. A good time warp. And immediately the storm has a follow-up. But this Bio army is just massive. The Photon overcharge trying to prevent the worst, but this Nexus is gonna fall. 88 army supply for TaeJa, 31 for San. Once again, TaeJa on a roll here and carrying that momentum into the main base of the Protoss.
That just looks silly. TaeJa just has so many more units than him. I really feel it comes down to those Immortals. I think that's just a complete wasted investment. And we saw it was almost non-effective. The Templar really didn't do enough. They took out a lot of the Ghosts, but the reason the Ghosts are there... and
GG!